Welcome to Production Value Matters, the business event podcast, brought to you by Byrne Production Services. Here, we explore the different ways business events can bring value to your organization, the latest technological advances in the event space, as well as providing you with actionable strategies to make a business event a success. Let's create an exceptional event experience.
So here we are on another episode of Production Value Matters, the business events podcast, and we're recording on location in Punta de Mita at the Conrad for GDP Connections. And joining me on the podcast stage today is Tom Edelen from Thrivent. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So how did you get to where you are today? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, currently I'm a senior event planner at Thrivent, but I didn't start out that way. My career mainly was actually in youth ministry in the Lutheran Church. I was a missionary in Venezuela for a few years and then served in a couple different churches in California, did gang and youth ministry, Hispanic ministry, and then was a principal of a private school for a few years. Unfortunately, the school closed, but I learned a lot about managing people and events and all that as well. But part of that is Thrivent has a local membership, and so there are different chapters within those regions, and I was vice president of my local chapter. I knew someone that was hiring for a role about almost 19 years ago at Thrivent, and kind of started my time there. Have been an event planner about 9 years at Thrivent.
Great. And so tell me a little bit about Thrivent and their mission statement.
Sure. So Thrivent is unique in that we're a Fortune 500 organization that does advice, investments, insurance, banking, and has generosity programs as well. That's kind of what my passion is, the generosity piece. But they have a very unique approach to generosity, which has really created a positive impact on communities. This past year, we've raised and donated $306 million through our generosity programs to our members, our clients, donated almost 14 million hours of time served. But it's a very unique, it's a fraternal benefit society, part of financial services. So we're able to really have some great impact of generosity in our communities and things like that.
And so what kind of events do you plan for Thrivent?
Sure. So I'm actually now doing pretty much all different kinds of events. So full on incentive conferences, meetings, small meetings, larger meetings, regional meetings as well for our financial advisors. And then something that I'm pretty passionate about and we'll talk about is our top advisor habitat incentive service kind of build as well too. And that's kind of something I've been really passionate about and working with. And
so how does Thrive's mission statement inform the events that you plan?
Yeah, so Thrivent is really wants to make a difference and through generosity to really help people to live out the lives that they really feel that God is intended them to do. We have a Christian background. We're not a Christian organization, but we serve Christians. And so really enabling our clients, our members to really take care of their families, but also take care of their communities and people throughout the world as well too. So the being able to be a part of that mission, which then aligns really well to some of the things that we do, even in the event planning space.
And so can you give me an example of an event where that alignment was particularly impactful?
Yeah, definitely. So Thrivent has been a partner for Habitat for Humanity International, which is, if you're not familiar, they do home building, they do home repairs and things like that. Their affiliates all over the world. They're based in Georgia, but they are all over the world. Some people know that Jimmy Carter has worked a lot. He didn't start it, but he's worked a lot with that program. And so we, about 20 years ago, started a program with them and have donated millions of dollars since, but really giving opportunities for our advisors, our clients, our members to really give back through that. So we had different programs that we worked, but about 10 years ago, helped start a program doing service as incentive. So I know a lot of, I know even here at GDP, at Connection, we've talked a lot about corporate social responsibility, CSR projects, doing maybe an hour or two as part of an incentive. Well, we kind of flip that on its head and we do service, and then we do a little bit of incentive at the end. Right. So, for instance, and again, this really aligns with Thrivent's mission a lot, with generosity and helping. So normally we'll go into it's usually an international destination. We'll go in on a Saturday. On a Sunday, we will give them a chance to kind of get into the time zone and jet lag, but also do some cultural activities. And then we build homes for 4 days. And then the last 2 days, then we take them on much more upscale of an incentive program. We've been fortunate enough to build in places like Malawi, Africa, Thailand, Vietnam, Romania, Paraguay, almost all of Central America, and taking a team in October to Poland, building in the southwest part of Poland. Interesting there that they have an empty spaces project. So there are so many empty buildings in Poland that they're not doing any new construction. Habitat isn't, but they're going into these old buildings and they're restoring them or building them up, turning them into flats. We're going to be finishing a building with 4 flats, and 2 families will be Polish and 2 families will be from the Ukraine. So they're doing a lot to try to help that situation as well too.
So is this what you speak about, the non-traditional incentive conferences?
Yeah.
Can you explain, is that what makes that unique? Is that idea of a CSR with a little bit of an incentive rather than an incentive with a little bit of a CSR?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So we also have the full-fledged, beautiful, amazing incentive conferences. But what's interesting is our advisors choose to either do that or to do this habitat build program. So it's not one or the other. It's choose this one or the other one. They can't do both. Right. So that's really unique. And we have 25 to 30% returning financial advisors that want to do these builds every year, and have a wait list every year for them, and have really gotten amazing reviews that people tell me, this is the best thing that Thrivent has done, that they are, Thrivent has taken to some really great places, but they feel like now it's time they want to give back. And so it's kind of a really, just a really unique and great way for us to show our generosity, but then also for them to give back and to provide a different experience.
Yeah, excellent. So how has the integration of service and generosity evolved in that corporate events over your career, and what future trends do you anticipate in that?
Yeah, I do think, and again, connection, I think, is a really good, since we've been talking so much about it, even today, I do see that more thought is going into it. I believe I'm in the financial insurance space, so I can't necessarily speak to other areas as well, but I do think that, and I say I have a benefit of being at Thrivent, where we do, we call them action teams, where Thrivent provides seed money for members to be able to make a difference and do different things. So we're surrounded by it all the time. And live generously is our slogan and our t-shirts and things like that. So that's, always in my top of my mind in this program. But I think overall, as in an industry, I think I'm excited to see that people are wanting to participate more in these kinds of activities. They're wanting to make a difference. I do think the younger generation coming up, our younger clients and things like that, where it's more ingrained in them, I believe, to make a difference and to travel and to do things like that. So I do see that it's continuing to grow. And I think in the event space, I think we're going to need to find more and more opportunities to dovetail those together.
Excellent. And so how have your previous roles influenced your current approach to event planning? Are there specific elements from your past roles that you regularly incorporate into your events?
Yeah. So I think part of my mom passed away from cancer 13 years ago. And I always joke that she was the hostess with the mostest. She had this generous heart of hospitality and of helping people to feel comfortable in our home and whatnot. And something that I believe I really took a lot of that from her, that in my own personal journey in the event space. I've been doing full-time events for about 9 years. And I get so much satisfaction in coming and watching the work that we've been able to do and provide opportunities for people to come together to learn and to celebrate. So I think from a personal standpoint, that's had a great impact on me, that I had a firsthand knowledge of my mom and that space she created, and I want to continue to do that. I do think that also being in the youth ministry space, working with kids, always trying to find and think of activities that that kids would enjoy, that they'd find valuable. And part of that was also doing service type of activities as well. But always having to be creative and think of different ways to make an impact and help them to really excited about what they're going to do, which isn't always easy. And then also working with kids in a school setting as well too, and try to provide opportunities for the kids, the students, for the teachers, the parents. And so I think all of those really had a big impact on me as far as being an event planner and trying to create a space where people are comfortable and enjoy doing what they're doing. It's not easy.
It's not easy. Like I from the production side, we were always there to support and make and sort of frame the messaging. But I participated. You were helping lead this creative workshop just a few minutes ago, and I was just fascinated by that process of the DMCs and the planning partners working together to figure all that out. So it is not easy.
No,
so I think
no.
your unique background sort of gives you a unique perspective on that.
Well, and I think Matthew too. I think for me, it helps. I just love people. I love people from all walks of life, from different countries and cultures. And I think in this role, I think that for me, I think it's just an important thing to be able to do, to say, I love you for who you are, or I appreciate you. Let's learn together. We may not always agree, but I think just having a passion for people has, I think, been a benefit for me to be able to be successful in this industry.
And so what are the biggest challenges you see in planning international events?
Yeah. I think part of it is oftentimes a language barrier. I'm fluent in Spanish, which helps. We do, meetings or incentives or even our habitat builds in Spanish speaking countries, which we do, which really helps a lot. And I really love that I can really understand the families we're working with and things like that. You also have communication can be a challenge besides the language, but also the time zone change, and then cultural differences. You have to really work hard to understand, for instance, the culture of time. We're like that we need this, and this by this time. And you get into other cultures where time is like, we got it. It's going to be okay. But like, I want it done now,
Yes,
so that's something that's, very, I think it's really important to understand kind of some of the things regarding culture as well. And I think some positive things you need to do is, the great thing about knowing about DMCs is they're the experts. And that's why I love working with them, is to really rely on them for me to get out of the way, say, this is what I want to do. This is what I need from you. And knock my socks off. What can we do to really provide an opportunity? And I think that really helps to mitigate a lot of the challenges of working with international events and or places and locations, destinations. Thank you. Is to be able to really rely on that, because they can help your language barriers as well. The challenge too are the unknowns, and that's in really any event you have those unknowns. But whereas if you're working in your own country, your own culture, you can kind of maybe get an idea what those may be and maybe react to those. Where if you're in a different country, different language, whatever, it can be a little scary to know, okay, what are we going to do with this? So again, relying on your local partners. I think too, the challenges too are even emergencies abroad. Fortunately, a few years ago, we had a death, and then I've been on a few other events where we've had to airlift people for medical reasons and things like that, which is challenging, of course.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's challenging
and you
at
can't,
home, let alone
correct.
in an international setting.
But then you add all of these extra layers of how to get them or their families or whatever back to their home, and working on that. So I think that's also a big piece of that too, that can be a challenge. And again, relying on your local partners. We also utilize a kind of a safety and security international organization that helps us if we need to get somebody out, or if there's any issues or things like that help us as well too. So I think it's also a very important thing to kind of utilize as a company.
Absolutely. So final question, who in the world of events would you most like to take to lunch and why?
Well, I think it's a good question. I love the Olympic Games. I'm not an athlete myself, but I just love the story and the passion and the drama behind it and how hard people are working to get there. So I think it'd be super fascinating to shadow the main event planner for the Olympic Games. To be able to sit and see how, obviously they're going to have a team, but to be able to sit and see what they do and how they do it and kind of learn from that. The biggest meetings that we work on is about 1,400, where you've got millions of, people coming in and hundreds of thousands and things like that. So I think that would be fascinating to be able to kind of experience that as well.
Wow. I mean, that you would have to have that as the longest lunch ever.
It would be.
It's like, okay, so we've handled transport in the first, course. Now we're going to go on to the second.
How about a 2-week lunch?
Yeah,
yes.
2-week lunch, and we'll cover every single department.
Exactly.
Thank you, Tom, for joining us on the podcast. This was amazing to me.
Of course, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Production Value Matters, the business event podcast, is brought to you by Byrne Production Services. To find out more about Byrne Production Services and how putting on events can drive value for your business, visit byrneproductionservices.com. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And on behalf of the team here at Production Value Matters, thank you so much for listening.